Okay. Quick gross question. Do you know that rotten egg smell? The one that makes you go, ugh, and physically back away? That's the name for that gas that does that to you. It's called hydrogen sulfide. And in 2018, astronomers pointed a telescope at a planet in our own solar system and found the exact same gas. Not just a little bit of it. It's basically what clouds are made of. A whole planet that smells like that. And here's the thing. Nothing's rotting up there. Nothing ever has because there's no life on that planet. So why does a planet with zero eggs, zero bacteria, and zero thing alive smell exactly like something dying? The planet is called Uranus. And yeah, I know. We'll get the jokes out of the way now so we can move on. But stick with me, because the real story is way stronger than the joke. Here's the thing, we've only been close to Uranus once, ever. Back in January of 1986, a spacecraft called Voyager 2 flew past it. No stopping, just a quick flyby, and grabbed what photos and reading it could on the way through. It could see the clouds just fine, but it just couldn't tell us what they were made of. For decades, scientists had to guess, and the best guess, based on Uranus' two bigger cousins, Jupiter and Saturn, was that the clouds were probably ammonia, the same stuff you find in some cleaning products. Sharp smell, totally different from rotten eggs. Made sense, right? Jupiter's like that, Saturn's like that. Why would Uranus be any different? So that was the working assumption for over 30 years. Before we get into how that assumption got wrecked, let's back up. Why does this stuff smell so specifically awful to us in the first place? Think of your nose like a smoke detector. It's not sitting there rating smells for fun. It's watching for danger. And this particular gas is one it's built to catch at absolutely tiny amounts, like a few parts per billion. Your nose can catch a whiff of it before anything looks or tastes wrong at all. So why so sensitive? Because on Earth, that smell means something specific. Something died, or that is breaking down. Sewage, spoiled food, swamp gas. Same warning light every time. Your brain hears it and says, get away from that thing. So here's the real question. If that smell is basically evolution's decay alarm, what's it doing on a planet where nothing has ever been alive to decay? And that question just sat there, unanswered, for over 30 years. Nobody could prove what's up there in those clouds. Which is kind of wild, honestly. We can spot planets orbiting other stars, and we still didn't know what our own solar system's seventh planet was made of, cloud-wise. So why did it take so long? It's not like nobody was trying. The problem is distance and faintness. Uranus is roughly 2 billion miles away. Whatever gas is up there sits in this thin layer just above the main clouds, and the signal it gives off is faint. Ground telescopes in the 80s and 90s just didn't have the sharpness to pick it out from all the noise around it. Kind of like trying to hear one specific whisper from across a packed stadium. So scientists were stuck with a guess they couldn't confirm. Not for lack of trying, but for lack of a good enough set of ears. And honestly, that's kind of the whole story of studying the outer planets. You spend decades just waiting for a tool good enough to finally answer the question. Speaking of sticking around for answer, if you're the kind of person who actually wants to see a mystery get solved instead of wondering about it forever, that's pretty much this whole channel. So you might as well just subscribe. Anyway, back to the smelly planet. In 2018, someone finally built the right set of ears. A researcher named Patrick Irwin at the University of Oxford led a team that used an instrument called an IFS, mounted on the Gemini North telescope on a volcano in Hawaii, to take an incredibly detailed look at the sunlight bouncing off Uranus' atmosphere. And buried in that light, they found it. A faint but real trace of hydrogen sulfide, right where the ammonia gas should have been sitting instead. Uranus clouds aren't ammonia. They are rotten egg gas for real. Confirmed and published. Irwin actually joked that if a person somehow survived the fall through the clouds, they get hit with a genuinely awful smell. Though he was quick to add, you would freeze and suffocate long before the smell became the biggest problem. And the internet predictably had a field day. Uranus stinks. Basically every headline said. But that's not actually the interesting part. Because here's what almost none of these headlines mentioned. This isn't just a fun fact about smell. It's a clue, and it points to something a lot bigger than what Uranus clouds happen to smell like. So why rotten egg gas at Uranus and cleaning product gas at Jupiter and Saturn? Turns out there are two separate reasons, not one. Reason one, temperature and location. Picture the solar system way back at the start as just a spinning disk of gas and dust around the brand new sun. Different chemicals could only freeze solid once you got far enough from the heat, kind of like how it has to get properly cold before water turns to ice. One of the scientists on Irvin's team, Leif Fletcher from the University of Leicester, put it simply: the balance between nitrogen and sulfur out there back then is basically what decided whether a planet would end up smelling like a cleaning fluid or like rotten eggs. Location set the recipe. But, and this is the part that trips people up, that's not the whole answer. Because there's strong evidence that giant planets didn't stay put where they were born. Uranus almost certainly formed closer in, and then drift outward over a very long time. So it's not just where the planet sits now, it's where it was way back at the very start. And that's the part that's a lot harder to pin down. Two separate puzzle pieces, chemistry and movement, both baked into one smell. So back to the real question, why does something with zero life, zero decay smells exactly like something dying? Here's the reframe. On Earth, that smells always means the same thing. Something used to be alive and now it's breaking down. It's a signal about ending. On Uranus, it's the opposite. Nothing has ever lived there to end. That smell isn't decay, it's leftovers. It's the raw chemical fingerprint of the exact conditions that existed way out past the sun's icy frost line 4.5 billion years ago, while Uranus was still forming. And it's been sitting up there basically untouched ever since. So that gross smell isn't a symptom of something dying. It's closer to a birth record, a planet's baby photo. Except instead of a photo, it's a smell. Now, before you assume every ice giant out there has to be fully figured out, here's the honest part. Uranus has a near twin, Neptune. Same general size, same general neighborhood, way out past the sun's warmth. You'd think if Uranus has this rotten egg signature, Neptune obviously does too, and probably. Later work, including more from Irvin's own team in 2019, picked up hints of the same gas at Neptune. But hints is honestly the word for it. It hasn't been nailed down the clean way Uranus was. Wait, pause. Anyway, here's the bigger gap. We've never actually sent a probe down into either of these planets. Everything we know comes from staring at them from very, very far away. So the full deep recipe of what's really inside Uranus and Neptune, the exact ratios, the full story of how and where they actually formed, that's still genuinely not finished. Not because nobody has looked, because nobody's actually been there. So next time that rotten egg smell hits you, bad eggs or gas leak or whatever it is, and you get the instant urge to back away, the reaction is old. It's your body's ancient decay alarm, doing exactly the job that it was built for. But somewhere out there, a planet you will never smell in person, that exact same gas isn't warning anyone about anything. Nothing's ending, nothing's ever ended. It's just been quietly sitting there in those clouds since before Earth even had anything to rot. The same smell, but completely different story.